Good afternoon. I'm 14 First Alert meteorologist Arden Gregory here with your weather show at 2:30. Here's a live look at the Owensboro riverfront with clear blue skies overhead. We did have clouds and even a little rain earlier this morning, but we're going to stay mostly sunny now through the remainder of the day. We're not totally in the clear yet, though. We do have spotty rain and thunderstorm chances through the overnight hours tonight. Then the rest of the week looks pretty good. Sunny, warm, but not too humid. Next week, though, a different story as we are tracking a possible heat wave as we get into next week. I mentioned we had clouds and even some rain. That rain was primarily over the southwestern half of the tri-state this morning. We had showers and even a couple of rumbles of thunder there, but all of that pushed off to the south pretty early on, and then the clouds have followed. We do have mostly sunny skies over the tri-state, although some clouds are still hanging around mainly over Ohio and Muhlenberg counties right now. As we continue into this afternoon and evening, those clouds will keep moving out, and it's going to stay mostly sunny through the next few hours. Now, late this evening, I'm talking closer to 7 or 8 o'clock, I wouldn't rule out a stray shower, but most of us won't see any rain until probably after 9 or 10. So this is going to be through the overnight hours tonight as a weak cold front passes through the tri-state. If you look closely at the wind arrows, you can actually almost see that change there, where we have warm air flowing in from the south and then cooler, drier air coming in from the north. And where the two collide, you do have this boundary here, and along that boundary, some showers and storms will pop up right through the middle of the night tonight. So we're talking, from about 10 or 11 p.m. through the middle of the night and into very, very early Thursday morning. But when I say early, I'm talking 3 or 4 a.m. at the latest. I think this rain will be out of here before sunrise on Thursday, and then in general, tomorrow is looking mostly sunny. Now, the tri-state has been upgraded into a level 1 risk for some isolated severe storms tonight, so I wouldn't rule out maybe some heavy rain and thunder, gusty winds, even some small hail, but all of those seem like a very isolated risk to me. I really think the better chance for storms, severe ones anyway, will be to the north and southwest of the tri-state today. So for the most part, this is just going to be rain and a few rumbles of thunder. I can't even guarantee everyone will see that. Some of you may stay completely dry, but don't be shocked if some point through the middle of the night tonight you get some heavy rain, some thunder and lightning, and even a strong wind gust or some small hail. Now, our temperatures really reflect the clouds and how they have covered the tri-state today. Farther to the north, where you've had sunshine most of the day, we've got upper 80s and even some low 90s there in Mount Carmel and Oakland City. Then as you head farther to the southeast, where the clouds have more recently cleared, it does get cooler. So we've got mid to upper 80s for most of us, 86 in Evansville and Newburgh, 88 in Henderson, 85 in Owensboro. But then in Dundee and Greenville, where you still have some clouds overhead, it's only 81. Most of us will still climb a couple more degrees, so I think majority of us will top out somewhere in the upper 80s this afternoon, but you may only get into the low to mid 80s farther to the southeast. And I mean, places like Mount Carmel and Oakland City could climb into the low to maybe even mid 90s this afternoon. Our dew points are sitting anywhere from the mid to upper 60s to low 70s, just depending on your location. For example, Owensboro right now, one of the lower spots with a dew point of 65, but even that means that the humidity has trended up some compared to earlier in the week. It was really pleasant, low humidity Monday and Tuesday, and this is still very tolerable. It's not that stifling, oppressive humidity that you often get this time of year, but it does have more of that warm, kind of sticky summertime feeling to it out there today. As we go through the overnight hours, though, that cold front is going to pass through the tri-state. Temperatures will be fairly warm through the overnight hours. We'll spend most of the night in the 70s, bottoming out in the upper 60s by the end of the night. And then we do have that chance for some scattered showers and some thunderstorms through the middle of the night as that cold front passes through. Now, it's not going to have a big impact on our temperatures. It is a pretty weak front. Tomorrow looks mostly sunny. I think it's probably going to be dry. I think that rain's going to move out very, very early, and temperatures will be a lot like today. Most of us are going to top out somewhere in the upper 80s, and we really hold pretty steady there right around normal for this time of year, with highs in the upper 80s to near 90 then through the rest of this week. Next week is when things really start to heat up. We've got highs in the mid to maybe even upper 90s some days as we get into early and middle next week. Now I want to show you the dew point trend. So this would be indicating the humidity. I mentioned we have seen a little uptick. It's a little muggier out there today than it was earlier in the week. That humidity will probably hit its peak a little later this evening before that cold front moves through. Then once the cold front passes through, the humidity will start to come back down. So we still have kind of a sticky feeling out there tomorrow, but really by this weekend, I think the humidity will be very tolerable, almost pleasant out there Friday, Saturday, and even into Sunday. Even though Sunday we'll start to see those temperatures pushing into the low to mid 90s, the humidity still won't be too bad. It does gradually trend up though as we get into next week. So keep in mind by Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, if you've got temperatures in the mid to maybe even upper 90s, and then you also throw in some muggy conditions, all of a sudden the heat index starts to become a concern again, where we could have feels like temperatures into the triple digits. So I want to show you our heat risk map. We don't really have a risk, much of one at all, of heat related illnesses now through Saturday. It's going to be warm, but not dangerously hot in any way. By Sunday, though, notice that orange shade starts to mix in there, a moderate risk of some heat-related illnesses. And then by Monday and Tuesday, that starts to trend up. And by Tuesday, we're talking about a pretty widespread major risk of heat-related illnesses, as our temperatures and our humidity combined could reach at or above that 105 degrees, which is considered kind of the benchmark for the danger zone. At or above 105 degrees, there's this really elevated risk of things like heat exhaustion or even heat stroke, which can be deadly. So it's possible we could end up with some of that dangerous heat creeping back into the tri-state by early and middle of next week. If you need to get out and mow your grass, I would say any day this week you want to do it just fine. The rain chances are mostly overnight tonight, so unless you were planning on mowing your grass at midnight, I don't think it's going to be a problem for you. And like I said, the heat and humidity should be a non-issue all the way up through Saturday. By Sunday, that's when we really start to heat things up into the 90s, and then especially as we get toward Monday and then even more so into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, that's where not just the heat but also the humidity will start to play more of a factor, and we may potentially end up having to add some first alert weather days depending on exactly how high that heat index is going to get. That's something we're going to be watching very closely for you. Let me check in on the comments here, see what folks have to say. Good afternoon, Laura, watching from Dawson Springs. Always appreciate you tuning in, Laura. Good afternoon, Misty. Misty's hoping that the thunderstorms aren't going to get too bad. Zach also concerned about the storms tonight. Suzanne, the moon was big last night. It was big and bright. You could almost see without any kind of light outside last night. And yes, Darlene is saying, you know, we've had this kind of taste of the cooler fall weather, especially, you remember earlier this week, Monday morning, we got down into the 50s. Man, it felt awesome out there. But this is just a reminder, we're not actually done with summer just yet. And hello, Scotty from Tell City. So we do have a couple people concerned about those thunderstorms. Again, I want to emphasize that we have not added a first alert weather day because we are not personally all that concerned about them. We will see a few showers and some thunderstorms. I do think we'll probably get a little heavy rain and lightning through the night tonight. I cannot completely rule out the possibility of an isolated severe storm, but I think if we did, it would probably be for some very isolated damaging winds. Overall, the threat just seems very low. So you will probably hear some storms tonight. Don't be shocked if you get woken up by a little thunder or something like that, but I'm not seeing any kind of major severe weather threat with those storms tonight. It'll be just kind of a broken line of rain and thunderstorms along a weak cold front, and it should be pretty low impact. If anything, we should be grateful because that cold front is what's going to then pull the humidity down and keep us pretty comfortable all the way through this weekend. And then the heat and humidity ramp up as we get into early and middle of next week and maybe even beyond. Let's take a look at the extended outlook. This is September 3rd through September 9th. So we're picking up then where the 7-day leaves off. So we've got the 7-day forecast up through next Wednesday. This is next Thursday all the way past Labor Labor Day now. It doesn't show a real clear trend toward above or below average precipitation. Looks like our rain chances are just kind of average for this time of year. The temperature trend, though, does show a trend toward above average temperatures during that time period. And if you look more specifically at the hazards outlook, notice the tri-state areas kind of all around us. I mean, much of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, all of Kentucky, and then even more so as you head off to our southwest. Much of the country is outlooked for a slight risk of seeing extreme heat during this time period, specifically from Thursday, September 3rd up through Sunday, September 6th. So we just talked about that heat that's going to start building in this Sunday, right? And really kind of takes hold as we get into Monday and Tuesday of next week. Those temperatures in the 90s, that heat index climbing into the triple digits, that might be something that sticks with us for an entire week. We may be dealing with that kind of heat, not just through Monday, Tuesday, or even Wednesday of next week, but all the way into the start of Labor Day weekend. So it's very possible we're tracking another heat wave that could last several days as we get into next week. So that's kind of, once we get through the storms tonight, that heat wave is kind of the next big thing that we are tracking and keeping an eye on. I do want to throw it back for just a minute, take a look at this date in weather history. Today we're going to go back to 2004. On this date in 2004, we had strong thunderstorms that moved across the lower Wabash River Valley, and those produced 4 to 7.5 inches of rain. Those were actual reports from people in their rain gauges, had 4 to as much as 7.5 inches of rain from these storms. No surprise, that much rain in one day did produce some widespread flash flooding across southwest Illinois and southwest Indiana especially. There were multiple reports of road closures and stranded vehicles. Half of the First Street Bridge in Grayville, people in Grayville will probably remember this, half of that bridge was washed away due to the flooding from that heavy rain. And then Big Creek near Wadesville, Indiana. That's kind of between Evansville and Mount Vernon, if you don't know where that is. The Big Creek there rose 16.5 feet in 15 hours. So we were tracking some major flooding on this date in 2004. This August, I don't have a whole lot to show you because we're still having problems with the weather station out at the Evansville Regional Airport. In my memory, I can't think of a time where we've gone this long with a data outage like this. They've run into some problems with the weather station out there. The National Weather Service is who maintains that. They sent their technicians up, had to order parts. Anyone who's ever gone through any kind of, fix or renovation where you have to do something like that knows it always takes longer than you think it will once you start talking about ordering parts from somewhere. So we did have one little outage back on the 5th, but then on Saturday the 15th, that night, that weather station went down and it has not consistently been back up since. It'll pop on for an hour or two and then it goes back down again. And so we don't have any consistent data for all of last week and the first half of this week. We've gone a week and a half now without any kind of consistent rainfall data or high temperature data. So usually, when we show you this calendar, the next thing I would show you would be, the average temperature for the month and whether it's above or below normal and, the rainfall totals for the month and how that compares to the average. I just don't have that data for you right now because that weather station is still down. They are hoping to get it back up and running though consistently by the end of this week and get that fixed up for us. So August may have a little asterisk next to it this year because we're just not going to have data for nearly half the month there, a couple of weeks there that are going to be missing from this month's data. So that's a shame. As a scientist, we're not a fan of any kind of missing data, but they're doing their best to get that up and running again. Here's another look at the 7-day forecast. I'm going to take one more check-in on the comments and see if there are any other questions for us here. Hello, Ricky. Brian is asking about hurricane development. We are keeping a close eye on a weather system that may potentially turn into a named storm out in the Atlantic. It's too early to tell for sure, but what's interesting about that storm is we haven't had a ton of named storms so far this year. We've had they go in alphabetical order. We've had A, B, and C. D would be next, and the D storm this year is Dolly. So it's kind of ironic, coincidence, I guess, that Dolly Parton did pass yesterday, and now it's possible by tomorrow we could have a named storm in the Atlantic named Dolly. Most notably, that storm name has been in rotation for a while now. I think this is the third or fourth time it's been used. There was a Hurricane Dolly back in 2008, I think. Hit Texas, but it was only a Category 1 storm. It didn't do enough damage to get the name retired, and so it's back around. They just kind of rotate these names through unless it's a big enough system that it gets the name retired, and so they just rotate these same names through, and this year the D name ended up being Dolly. So we're keeping a close eye on it. It is very possible we will be tracking a tropical system named Dolly, just like Dolly Parton, here in the next few days. So we'll be keeping an eye out on that for you, but it hasn't come together just yet, so we'll just have to wait and see what comes of that. One more look at that 7-day forecast. Again, the highlights here for you. Greg is excited. He says, bring on the heat. I'm not a fan, Greg, but I'm glad you're excited about it. So one final thing here. We do have that chance of a few storms overnight tonight. I doubt we'll see any severe weather. An isolated severe storm can't be totally ruled out, but overall our severe weather threat looks pretty low. It's a pretty weak cold front that's moving through, bringing us this chance of storms. But we have had a lot of sunshine out there this afternoon. It's kind of warm and muggy, so there is some energy to work with there. We'll be here keeping an eye on things for you just in case. Once those storms roll through, tomorrow is looking mostly sunny. The humidity will kind of gradually drop behind that cold front. So Friday looks absolutely gorgeous. Clear blue skies, low humidity, highs in the mid to upper 80s. We do start to warm back up over the weekend. I think the humidity will still be pretty tolerable through at least Saturday, probably Sunday too. But then by next week, highs will be in the mid to maybe even upper 90s some days, and the humidity will be on the rise as well. So I think by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll probably be talking about some triple-digit heat index values there, and it's possible that that heat wave that would kick off like Sunday or Monday could stick with us through the entire week, maybe even all the way up into the start of Labor Day weekend. So that is something we'll be keeping an eye on. I do see one other question here, somebody asking, will we get a lot of rain tonight? That will really depend on where you are. The rain tonight is not a guarantee. It's going to be scattered. Some of you may not see any rain at all, but if you do get a thunderstorm with a pocket of heavy rain, it could put down a quick ½ inch, but it's not going to be a widespread or lengthy rain at all. It's going to blow through real quick. So maybe a little bit of flooding if you get caught in a downpour, but it would be very temporary. We're not looking at any real widespread high rain totals tonight, James. All right, and with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Chief Meteorologist Jeff Lyons will have a look at your forecast on 14 News tonight at 4, 5, 6, and 10, and he'll do another streaming show here tonight at 9 p.m., so I hope you'll join him then. Thank you so much for watching the 14 First Alert Weather Show here at 2:30, and have a great rest of your day.